morning. Happy 2025. It's been some time since I've jumped on a live, but I've been sitting on this, maybe for the last 2 months, this idea of resolution versus evolution, and evidently this time of year, the idea of New Year's resolutions comes screaming to the forefront. Just going to jump up here on the old think tanks. This is the first one I've done of these in quite some time as well. So I've been sitting on this idea for a little while, and I was contemplating quite heavily as into how it fits in and what it's all about, and why it made sense. I've shared the idea with a few people, with people I'm close to, maybe a few people that I've worked with. And I wrote a post the other day about creating space, which was a part of the evolution piece, right? So I wanted to share this thought process because it might be useful for you, and just understand I'm still in the throes of figuring out exactly what the level and gravity of this idea is, this distinction between resolution and evolution, and how it fits in to make it not so much about being solid, because I think there's a fluidness to any of these ideas. They can change and evolve, and they should. The more they come into contact with people and how let's say you specifically might use it, you then share an insight with me that potentially has the power to shift how I think about it too. So these are not finite ideas that are set in stone. They're just ideas that I like to play around with. So this idea of resolution seems to come up at this time of year, and one of the things that I have a bit of a bugbear with when it comes to resolution is that it seems that almost it's an opportunity for a fresh start, which I get, but why wait until the end of the year, start of the new one, in order to affect or impact change in your life? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And that's where the idea of evolution came from, was the fact that evolution doesn't wait for anything. Right, it's constantly flowing. Like, there's always an evolution on some level, right? Evolution, another word you could use, is change. Change is always apparent. Now, things like losing weight, changing jobs, new career, maybe getting in or out of relationships, or vowing to spend more time with your friends and family and all that sort of thing, that's all well and good. But I think we look at these ideas, and you'll have your version of this, of what you have vowed to do more of this year or do less of this year. And I think the idea of resolution is to surface level. And evolution, at the core of who we are being, is a complete shift in standard. Right, so you're actually evolving the human being that you show up to be. You're not just removing a piece, right? Like, oh, that piece was impacting me. It was almost like you're swapping one shirt for another, right? It's not like that. It's at the heart of the situation. It doesn't go any deeper than that. Okay, so resolution is one of those things that we are swapping one idea for another, right? Now, you could argue that is evolution, but it's more about mindset and how you connect with the idea that's more important. Okay, so if you say I want to lose 10 kilos, losing 10 kilos is not what you really want. You want what losing 10 kilos will actually make you feel, right? What's the deeper thing beyond the 10 kilos? Because deep down inside, that emotional connection to having 10 kilos, being 10 kilos heavier, that's the thing we want to address. Like, where does that thing live inside of you right now? Right, and it's an evolution of being. So one of the things that I've I've done over the years, and this is upon reflection, hence the reason that I landed on this idea around resolution versus evolution, is this it actually found me where I started to lean into living into a new version of myself via a selection of one word. So my whole year could be the lens to which I could see my life through became one word that was either selected or was picked for me. And when I say picked for me, I don't mean someone else picked it for me, but I was being shown something inside the way in which life was unfolding. Hey Andy, what's going on, man? Happy 2025, dude. It made sense to pick that word. So 3 or 4 years ago, it was the word slow. I was going so fast with all the things that were going on in my life. I was about to have a kid. I was trying to build a coaching practice. And because of what I had in front of me and the level of expectation I had of myself to be able to perform based on prior experience, I had put myself under an enormous amount of unnecessary pressure. And I'd lost the essence of why I was doing what I was doing. And the only thing I could think to do at that time, which may have been impulsive at some point, but I'd seen people break down before and I didn't want to be one of those guys. So I basically stopped what I was doing, right, before I got to that point. So it was either I was going to choose to stop or the universe was going to force me to stop. And that may have been a health scare. It could have been me doing something irrational or impractical or something I just didn't mean. But felt forced to take an action because I was so plied to the eyeballs and had no room to move. So I decided to stop it all. And what came from that was this slowness to see my world for what it really was and where I wanted to go and what my next steps were going to be. And that took probably 6 to 12 months to really eventuate. And that's where this word slow came from. So over the next couple of years, I lent into this word slow. So slow for me then meant removing things from my life that no longer served me in order to be able to see what was actually happening. Because if you've got 24 hours in a day and every minute of every day is filled with something, you've got no time to reflect and just digest what's happening. Your awareness has nowhere to live other than the next thing, right? So you're never truly there because your mind's either on what just happened, what you're about to do, or what's going to come next, right? So you're constantly flicking from one to the other, and you start to use words like multitasking, which is a fucking stupid word. Multitasking, it's sort of badge of honor. It's like if you can slow down and carve out time in your day where you don't do anything, that's impressive. That's fucking impressive. That's a superpower. Not being able to do two things at one time, right? Because you're not doing either of those as well as you could be, which has been proven in the science. So you can't be in two places at once. So as I was trying to be in two places at once, I realized I had to stop doing that. So when I stopped doing that, everything became a lot quieter. And then with that slowness, I could then see what my next steps were. Okay, and they slowly started to come back into my vision, right? Because I allowed what was going on in my head, my thinking mind, which was just chaotic at the time, to dissipate. So then through that process, I had opportunities show up in my world, which otherwise I probably wouldn't have seen or wouldn't have been open to. And I even kicked back on a few of them because I didn't think I was ready to take on the opportunity. I started to think with my head again. I was getting into the ego and I wasn't looking at the bigger picture. Eventually I came around, and what turned from what was slowness and then evolved into discernment. So now I had created all this space and time around me in order to see what I needed to see, to make the decisions that I needed to make. I could slowly start to add things back into my life. But discernment was a really powerful word because I needed to make sure I was deeply connected to the thing that I was adding into my life, and that it was for me and not for someone else. So there was another distinction that was born inside of this part of my life, this discernment period, which was the distinction of impulse over intuition, right? Or intuition over impulse, or intuition versus impulse. It's this distinction that came to me, which was impulse was making a call really quickly. right? Because it was what was in front of me and I felt like I needed to respond in that moment, right? Here's the thing is that if somebody asks you a question, you're under no obligation to answer that question immediately. We've just been trained is that somebody asks you a question, you naturally respond. But your response could be, it's a really interesting question. I'm going to give it some thought and I'm going to get back to you. Okay, really appreciate the question. I don't know how I feel or think about that yet. Give me the day, I'll come back to you. Right? It's okay to not answer that message that comes into your inbox immediately, into your emails immediately, into your DMs immediately. Answer that phone call that's popped up on your phone. You don't have to answer these things. So I was being discerning around where my time went. If that thing was really that important, that person's going to leave a message or they're going to try again, right? But just understand that their priority to get a hold of you is their priority, not yours. So when I started to realize that, I was very discerning about where I put my time, energy, and effort, right? Because I had no agreement with any of the people that were trying to get a hold of me. And this is just one example. There was no agreement there, right? I was under no obligation to have a conversation with that person at that time for any reason at all. There's no money on the table. There was no conversation being had. It was just they were trying to get a hold of me for something that they wanted or needed. And that's fine. Now, you might think of this as being selfish or a bit closed off, but you've got to understand that my phone no longer lives in my office when I'm at work. The reason it no longer lives in my office when I'm at work is because it's the greatest sucker of my time, period. So it now no longer lives in my office because I'm no longer willing to give it time. This is an evolution in standards. Okay, this is direct correlation to what I'm speaking about now is that I no longer wish to keep my phone in my office, because if I keep my phone in my office, if it moves or buzzes, even though my phone is permanently on silent, and has been for, I'd argue, a decade, it still draws my attention. If I can see it, I might as well not be there. So I had to remove it from the office. It's amazing what something so simple has done for me. I get so much more work done, right? And all the things that I thought would happen haven't happened. The world still keeps spinning and revolving if my phone's not in my office and I can't see it move, right? It's like a tree falling in the woods. If no one's around to witness it, it doesn't make a sound. It's like evidently it fucking doesn't, because nothing changed other than the awareness and attention I could now afford to give to other things in my life. So discernment, putting things back into my life that were deeply important and powerful and meaningful to me, right? Using the distinction of impulse versus intuition. Impulse being a very quick reaction. Intuition being something that if I got given an opportunity or someone asked me a question or something came to me and there was a decision potentially to be made, there was a sort of like a pseudo distinction inside of that being a hell yes or a hell no. There was no maybes, there was no fence sitting. So sometimes that needed some time to sit to see where that fit. And if it was naturally a thing that in a month's time, like I wanted to do a course or read a book or go to an event or work with a client or something, any of these sorts of things. There's a myriad of different things, personal and professional, the whole bit. If that was still just as powerful inside of me to be able to go and do that thing a week, 2, 3, a month later, then that's when I would start to explore it further. But if I made a decision on the spot, that was impulsive. And if I was being impulsive, I knew that was more of a quick fix. It's like retail therapy, right? I often would buy things because it made me feel good. And then I would just have all these little weird things that made me feel good. It's like, oh, I need that. I need this. I need that. I need this. So here's another example is that before I bought my ice bath, I spent the full winter in our pool between 5 and 12 degrees that pool would get to. My ice bath gets between 4 and 10, right? So it's a direct equivalent. To justify the spend of the ice bath, I needed to prove to myself I could get in that water every day for all of winter. If you want to go over to my Instagram page, you will see 100 videos of me jumping into the pool over winter and then writing a little thing on that particular experience, right? Just these little flash moments, right? These little downloads right? So now I can prove to myself over a 90-day period that I can actually do that, which justifies the purchase of the ice bath rather than it being just an impulsive thing because I saw it online, right? Now I've been doing ice baths since maybe 6 years ago. So that's not the point, but the point is that I still needed to prove to myself that I would be able to get up every day and do that thing. Now it's just a part of what I do. Okay, so it's an evolution. Okay, there are stages to this, and you know yourself well enough to know where you're at. Now, I've gone from slow to discernment. This year is different. This year I've now evolved into what I refer to as surrender. Okay, now surrender has a combination of discernment and slowness, but surrender for me this year is more about space, and that is creating space in my life for the flow of life to actually come to me. Now, what does that mean? Really simply, is that I've got things in my life that are very, very apparent. I work with a company which works with 200 plus healthcare and medical practitioners, right, to grow healthcare practices. Okay, that's apparent. I do that 3.5, 4 days a week. I also have a family, right? Those two things are rock solid in my life, right? Nigh on immovable. Now, there are other aspirations I have in my life as well. I created a course. I started to work with clients outside of that work. Okay, those two things were very close to my heart because the type of work that I did with those people was far more connected to soul, spirit, and heart. This idea about finding what really, really vibes with you inside of life, to understand what's intuitive and what's impulsive, to really connect from a heart level, to make decisions from that place rather than just constantly thinking about it, right? Because one thing that I figured out recently, it's probably a remembering more than anything, is that between what I want, what I desire, and where my heart's off to, and where I'm at right now, the only thing that ever gets in my way is my thinking about that thing. Should I do it? Am I the right person to do it? Do I have enough credentials? Okay, what if nobody says yes? Or what if people ridicule me? Right? None of that shit, none of that's real. But I make it real because I act accordingly. Now, if I have that thought and let go of that thought, then all there is to do is just to do the do, as one of my mentors and coaches says. Just do the do, right? You're already connected to it. You've already got the plan. Do the thing. Okay, so I started to do these things out there, learned a ton, connected with some really cool people, evolved my thinking in a few areas. But what I started to also do was what I did before I turned that initial word slowness, into a way of being. And I realized I caught myself and I was starting to spread myself a little bit thin. When I was at home or I was at work, I was thinking about, I'd really like to create this or create that, or I don't have time and now I've got to be with the kids and I'm not really with the kids, or I'm not really with my wife, and I'm not planning anything, or not doing anything fun or as fun as I'd like to do. All of these things started to play out and I'm like, I need to let go of these things that I've created and I love deeply, because I'm not seeing the opportunity. I'm not allowing my awareness to really infiltrate the places in my life that are already apparent, and being able to see the opportunity inside of those places. So I let go of it. The most phenomenal thing has happened is that I've created space where otherwise I would focus my attention or energy on the thinking of where I was going to find time and energy and space to do said things for this thing these courses and this community that I'd started to build. Now, what filled that space was I started to speak into the world this idea. When I spoke this idea into the world, opportunities started to present themselves that were apparent the whole fucking time. Now, I've got a goal, a big, big goal, a dream, a vision, whatever you want to call it. In order to fulfill it, one of the ways in which I want to do that is buy a 100-acre plus property and bring high-performing, high-achieving, impactful human beings who are up to big shit, who want to create impossible dreams, and I want to take them on a spiritual journey in order to help them unpack that in a way that is going to serve them and the wider world. Right, I want to spend time in nature with these guys and really, really get to the heart of the things that they want to create, and then help them create it in a bit of a community, an incubator of sorts, okay? This is an idea I've had over the last 18 months. That's a 10-year goal. That's something that's 10 years down the road. I created this space by letting go of something that I loved, but I wasn't ready to implement. Hey, Julian, what's going on, man? When I did that, an opportunity presented myself at the company I currently work with that I consult and coach for. They offered me the opportunity to run an event for their high performers, to help them organize it. My initial instinct on that one was, hell no. You know why? Is because I was so focused and I hadn't let go of the stuff that I've just shared with you that I've now let go of. I hadn't done that yet, so I wasn't in this frame of mind, and this was maybe 2 months ago. When he asked me, in my head I said, hell no. He said, just sit on it because it's not a now thing. I just wanted to float it to your attention. I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. So I held it lightly. But when he asked me, he said, my head was like, no way, no chance. Not doing that. It's so far from where I want to be. Over the course of December, I started to live into this evolution of letting go, this surrendering to what life is showing me. And as I started to surrender into that opportunity, something really interesting happened, is that I connected dots that I didn't have space to connect before. And what I realized was what they were actually asking me to do was actually move that 10-year goal into the present. They'd given me an opportunity to be a part of that goal now, to work with extremely high performers, creating big, impossible dreams for themselves in such a way that we could create experiences and bring that out of them now. However, my ego originally didn't let me see that. What my ego was saying is that that's not your thing. That's not how you would do it. It doesn't look how you thought it was going to look like. And I was like, that is so fucking stupid. Now, my level of awareness shifted in a month because I used that filter of impulse versus intuition. I wasn't willing to say no or anything other than just let me sit with it. Now, this opportunity is like, I got back into that office at the start of this year after having, it was a quarterly one-to-one review session, and I shared this with my GM. I shared it with him. I shared everything I just said to you then, word for word. I told him about it. He laughed because he thought it was funny, and it was hilarious to think and hear this out loud. And then I told him the bit. I said, dude, I'm all in. Let's go. Right? If you need me, if you decide that I'm the right fit for you to help you do this thing, you got me. All me. Let's do it. Now, there's nothing set in stone yet, but I don't need it to be. Because if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't care. Right? I'm not going to, my value in this world is not tied to that one thing and someone choosing me in order to get there. Because I know I'm going to get there regardless. This is just the first stepping stone, because all of the skills and tools that I will learn by being able to do this first one will be evident and apparent and useful, highly useful, when I evolve the idea over time. That's just one of the crazy things that has popped up because I've now allowed space and time. And then I shared this story with people in my current circle for them to then say, hey, dude, what do you think of this? There's 3 others that have happened in that space of time. Other than sharing, nothing shifted. Nothing changed. I didn't go and do anything else. I just let go of some stuff. I allowed space to be filled by the natural flow of things I planted years ago. Years and years and years ago. Right? So this constant idea, this necessity to constantly go, I've got to do. We missed the point that we did ages ago. You showing up every day to the thing that you said you were going to do or you're currently doing is you doing the do. But you need to create space around you to actually sit in and reflect to see what the world's actually showing you. Because you could be saying no to an opportunity because it doesn't look how you think it should look. Now, take this into consideration. This planet's been around a lot longer. This universe has been around a lot longer than you and I ever have been, ever will be. We're not even a blip on the radar. It's that small. Now, in all that time before us and all that time after us, it's going to survive. It doesn't need our input. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go after your dreams, but it also doesn't mean that you've got to fucking manhandle every decision in order for it to look a certain way. This is finite. What goes on in here, you don't know what the fuck the world's made of. I don't know what it's made of, but I do know that when I give things space, crazy shit happens. Right? So I'm really, really particular. Like, I've taken discernment to another level around what I'm willing to say yes to. So I've got some opportunities recently inside of this same scope that I'm talking about now, which I'm just holding lightly enough to see whether or not that's a fit just yet. Because I don't want to impulsively say yes and then regret my decision in 3 months' time because I hadn't considered everything that I needed to. It's like, what am I saying yes to here? Am I saying yes to what they want me to do, or am I saying yes to something that's deeply and profoundly going to be something I can lean right into? Right? I don't take these decisions lightly anymore because I have in the past, and I made them because I thought that's what the other person wanted me to do. That's making choices based on someone else's priorities. And when I do that, I say something deep, say no to something deeply important to me. And I'm no longer willing to do that. And I'm very, very honest with the people who come to me with things around how I'm thinking, because I also want to emulate to people that they don't have to make quick decisions just because someone's asked them to make a decision. Right? You're under no obligation to jump through hoops for other people, despite the agreements you've got. You can break an agreement, providing you do it with integrity. Right? If it's no longer serving you, be honest about it no longer serving you. Because that's typically what I see, is that all of the things that we've done in our lives, there's this element of, well, they served us, therefore they must be valuable. They are valuable. They're just no longer needed anymore. And your vessel, your basket, your bucket is only so big. You can't carry everything. You just can't. And you're not expected to. Superman's not a real person. It's okay to say, that's too heavy for me right now. That's not for me right now. I appreciate the offer. I'm stoked you thought of me. But for me right now, that's not a now thing for me. So hopefully you've taken some insight out of that. This idea behind resolution versus evolution. The evolution of how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you speak is going to create your world. Your standards are the things that we need to lift. Not lose 10 kilos. It's like, no one gives a fuck if you lose 10 kilos. You don't even care. You care more about that thing that's at the deep depths of the core of the reason why you want to lose 10 kilos. Not losing 10 kilos. It's just your thinking is, in order for me to feel that way, I think losing 10 kilos is going to be that useful thing I need. But it's not. It's like I get people come to me all the time. It's like, oh, I need to do Facebook ads. And I'm like, for what purpose? Well, I want to grow my business to make more money. It's like, great. How many people in your database? It's like, it's like, when was the last time you messaged them? You don't need Facebook ads. Stop trying to come up with your own solutions. It's like, just be open to the possibility that you don't have the answers, instead of being closed off to think like you should have all the answers. Get fucking curious. If you want to resolve anything, resolve this idea that you have all the answers and maybe you don't know, and that being curious is going to allow you to see so much more, allow so much more in. Being open to the opportunities that are now available to you currently, that is smacking you right in the face, these synchronicities that pop up time and time and time again. Anyway, that's probably one of the longest ones of these I've done. Awesome to have you here, Andy, Julian, fantastic. I think TB, I think I saw you floating around there as well. Thanks, legends. Have a friggin' ripper 2025. If you've got any questions and you ever want to talk about this stuff, I'm always open to it. I love this shit. Have a great year, guys. Bye.